Hey friends, welcome. I'm George, and recently I released a video about salt substitutes, and in that lineup should have been green salt, which did not ship to me in time, so I promised to do this follow-up video when I received it. Here it is. Green salt is much more than a low-sodium salt substitute. It's made from a very nutrient-dense farm-raised sea green known as Salicornia, right here on planet Earth. It kind of sounds like the name of a really bad 90s metal band. Salicornia is a halophyte, which is a salt-tolerant plant. Production has had a steady increase over the last few decades, not only for human consumption, but it's finding its way as an all-natural feed for livestock, hopefully to someday replace GMO corn. It does, however, come with some concerns, which I will address. Is green salt a good low-sodium substitute? How does it taste? And should you buy it? Now, disclaimer, there's no money exchange for reviewing green salt. The green salt company doesn't sponsor my channel, and I purchased all of the salt substitutes, including green salt, with my own money. And green salt has no involvement in my review before it is posted. Chris and his family have been harvesting Salicornia for the past 20 years, and he has taken some time to meet with me. Let's just get into it. Tell me a little bit about your family-owned business and how it started.
I'm the marketer within Green Salt, and my business partners are the Noriega family that started growing Salicornia nearly 20 years ago. Actually started as a research project to figure out if we're able to grow crops on saline land, because every year we lose 40 million acres of coastal farmland to salinization, which is salt water intruding into the water table after you use up the groundwater. So this land becomes unusable for growing most crops. My business partners, who were researchers and professors at the Agricultural University in Sonora, started working with Salicornia and different types of halophytes. Originally, they wanted to make biofuel, basically, out of the Salicornia seed, but that didn't work out. We saw the need for Salicornia as a garnish in Europe, because a lot of Michelin star chefs, haute cuisine restaurants really liked Salicornia and were using it. During the last couple of years, we started developing the dehydrated format of Salicornia, which turned out to be the perfect substitute for salt. It's salty, it adds umami, a savory flavor. You're getting magnesium, potassium, vitamin B3, less sodium.
It sounds like Salicornia is like the miracle vegetable. Your Salicornia, it's grown in Mexico, right?
We're in Baja California, 2 hours south of the border from San Diego. Since we're working on saline land that's close to the sea, the water table is actually filled with salt water. So we actually developed a saltwater well, which we're able to pump from, and then we filter the water again, test it for heavy metals, pollutants, and then that goes to our irrigation channels.
This controlled method that you guys are using of raising Salicornia, it seems like it's far safer than, you know, like if someone were to harvest wild Salicornia, because I read in a few cited papers that in the wrong environment, like Salicornia could, like you mentioned, contain some heavy toxic metals.
Yeah, that's right. That's the risk with 90% of the Salicornia market. A lot of chefs actually like to harvest Salicornia themselves, but you just don't know what the soil situation, what the pollutant situation is in the water where you're harvesting, unless you're like actively testing. So with our controlled environment, we test our soil, we test our water, we test the product. We have to test everything. Our farm is certified by Global Gap. We go through an audit with them. There's no pesticides, there's no heavy metals. Because we eat this product ourselves, our families eat this, yeah, we want to make sure it's super safe for everybody.
I looked on the packaging, looked online. It seems like there's a healthy dose of iodine in it, 27 micrograms per teaspoon. I did a video on salt, and I covered some sea salts, and people were up in arms because a lot of the sea salts aren't iodized. There's a little confusion about that. I don't think people realize that the best source of iodine would actually be to get it from a sea product like Salicornia, and yours has it built in, which is wonderful, and it's less sodium. I mean, it's like really fantastic. I'll put lists on the screen of what the daily recommended dose is, but do the nutrients get lost in the dehydration process? Because there are a lot of citations and papers on Salicornia, and it's like power pack with antioxidants and vitamins that you mentioned earlier. And would you say, well, you know, if you ate really good farm-raised fresh Salicornia, you'd you'd get this, whereas opposed to in ours, you wouldn't get that supplement.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of vitamins aren't heat stable, so they can be lost when there's high heat applied. Our heating process is quite gentle. With fresh Salicornia, you do get vitamin C, and that is lost. Chlorophyll does oxidize with time and lose its benefits.
Chris, I really thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on my show. I will be putting this through its paces and testing it in a few minutes. I just want to thank you so much for giving me a little bit of a little education on Salicornia and what you and your family do.
I love sharing our mission and facts about Salicornia because it's such a fascinating plant. So I appreciate being here.
When I purchased my bag of green salt, I received a cookbook PDF as well. And since it's so much more than a salt substitute, I'm not only going to taste it on plain cucumber like I did in my previous video, I'm going to make a batch of their hummus recipe just to see how it tastes. I'm going to start out with a light sprinkle, just like I did in the previous video. Wow. Wow. That is, not only is it the perfect amount of salt, it almost tastes like there's MSG in it. I know there isn't for a fact. It's that umami that they say on the bag, salty and umami. It's definitely there. It's got that really potent Asian style glutamate umami flavor that kind of saturates your mouth. Wow, that's really delicious. The recipe does call for 1 15.5-ounce can of chickpeas, but I recommend you boil your own from dried beans, or at the very least, purchase organic canned beans. Take a look at these brands on Amazon, popular brands that you can pick up in your local supermarket. See, this non-organic brand contains EDTA as a preservative. You don't need it in your body, and it's easily avoidable. If you're going to use a 15.5-ounce can of chickpeas or 440 grams, you really need to rinse them extremely thoroughly, whether the can is organic or not. Again, go with organic. We're going to take one large lemon and we are going to juice it, take all the pits out, clearly. Again, go with organic because how much synthetic pesticide leaches into the lemon? If it's organic, at least it has the potential to be less toxic, if not toxic at all. We're gonna take 1 clove of garlic, we're gonna mince it using this mincer, and then we're gonna smash it and turn it into a paste. The recipe that they give you in the PDF calls for a 1/2 cup of tahini. Just make sure that you thoroughly mix it. Look, I don't wanna repeat myself, so if I don't say it, the ingredients I use in this recipe are always organic whenever possible. The recipe does call for 1 teaspoon of green salt or more, so I'm just gonna add 1 teaspoon, see how it goes. You could always add it, you can't always take it out. The recipe calls for extra virgin olive oil, 3 tablespoons. This was the winner in my olive oil comparison video. Husari olive oil, amazing, amazing California olive oil. Hard to believe that it's produced in the United States. We're just gonna add all of these ingredients to our food processor. And we're gonna blend it smooth and taste and see if we need any more green salt. I almost forgot some of this amazing fresh ground black pepper. I love Campot peppercorns. I did a comparison video of black peppercorns. You would not believe what a difference there is between the different types. A link to that video and the California olive oil video review will be available at the end of this video. If you're making this with fresh chickpeas, you want to add some of that boiled water, save it, let it cool off, to the chickpeas. And clearly when you're making the hummus, the chickpeas have to be cold. Right now, it's like a giant block here, almost like a bread dough, so you're gonna need to add some water to it. You'll find that comfortable zone where you may need up to a cup. I don't think so, probably around 1/2 cup of water. Something was missing, and I realized that I forgot to add a 1/4 teaspoon of cumin to this dish, which is what it calls for. It's really, really nice. You're gonna need more Salicornia than you think. I'm gonna add a little bit more to it because I feel that it needs that extra bite from the salt. Again, if you're on a low sodium diet, you just want to ease off on that a little bit. That's really delicious and unique. In my rendition of this, I added a 1/2 extra lemon, a 1.5 teaspoons extra Salicornia, green salt, and of course the added cumin, which I added an extra 1/4 teaspoon, so 1/2 teaspoon for cumin, The recipe for this will be in the description below. Doing a quick search on Google Scholar, I found a number of papers on Salicornia, some of which discuss the nutritional benefits, and the links to those are in the description. As I mentioned in the previous video I did on salt substitutes, this stuff costs around $3 per ounce, so it's not terribly inexpensive. But I do believe that if you were to buy it in larger quantities, the price does go down. It is outstanding. I give it a 10 out of 10. Whether you are on a low sodium diet or not, this should definitely be an arsenal that is in your spice cabinet, simply because it gives you that umami pop that we love so much in Asian food without any added monosodium glutamate. It's outstanding. And here is my tip of the day. After watching this video, I would suspect that someone in the Middle East probably pinned my photo to a dartboard. People are very adamant about how hummus is made. Sure, there are different recipes that add non-traditional ingredients to hummus, like roasted red peppers or toasted pine nuts. So I would imagine that adding Salicornia and making hummus green might aggravate a few traditionalists. But before you come up with your own rendition of hummus, you should learn how to make a really good classic hummus, because learning how to make an excellent fundamental dish sets the stage for a potentially excellent variation of that dish. My friend's dad, God rest his soul, used to say to me, "You can't make chicken soup from chicken poop." If you haven't seen that salt substitute video, here it is, and also a bunch of other videos. There's a whole lot more. Click on one of those links. Cheers.